everyone, welcome to Armbars and Sidebars, the professional, quote unquote, professional podcast show where we talk about professional wrestling. And today we are with guest number 1, guest number 4, and now guest number 11 on our show, which I can't believe it. I'm so grateful about it. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the star of the National Wrestling Alliance. You've seen him in Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, TNA Wrestling, WWE. You've seen him all over the place, but he's best known today for being part of the National Wrestling Alliance. Sal, thank you so much for joining us again.
Oh, thank you. You also forgot as of last Saturday, you've seen me in AAA.
Triple A star.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Add it to the list.
Honestly, it was great. And I'm going to give people a little peek behind the curtain. We meant to talk last week, but then you had to go to AAA. You know, as painful as it was for me to, have to put this aside for a week, it's awesome. How was the experience? Before we jump into plugs, and I do want to get to that, how was the experience of going to Mexico? Was this your first time?
Yeah, it was my first time legally for wrestling.
Okay.
I may have snuck in a couple times for other reasons, but it was so awesome. Like it just I mean, I wrestled in front of 25,000 people was the estimate.
Wow.
There's 25,000 people there, who didn't really have a knowledge of me. It was a three-way with me, Harry Morton, and Jack Cartwheel. And my first ever shot at the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title, which means like everything to me. It's like my number one goal in pro wrestling right now is to win that title. And my very first shot was on a AAA show in Mexico in front of 25,000 plus people. And like it was so surreal. It was like I'm still not over that high. Like coming to the back and having guys like Conan and Vampiro like compliment me is not like that's not things that are supposed to happen. Like
That's
just
super
not
cool.
Yeah, that's just not how life works. Yeah, it was beyond words almost. It was, and plus I got to do Kyle Davis, who's one of my best friends in the world. He was there with me, and he was able to capture some footage of like the walk to Gorilla, and just he got some different angles of the match that he sent to me. At one point I hit gonorrhea, which it's more common, I guess more people call it the page turner.
Yo.
But Jimmy Rave was the first person to do it that I knew of, and I called it gonorrhea because he was from Ghana, West Africa, and you don't want to get hit with gonorrhea because once you do, it's over.
Lovely.
Yeah. He invented the move. I came up with the name, but I got to do that as a tribute to him in the match, which is awesome. Like I said, it was super cool, and hopefully it opened up some doors to go back.
And for some added context, this was a AAA and NWA joint show, and it was a part of Billy Corgan had a whole thing going on down there, and a lot of NWA went down there. I know not everybody, but a lot of people were there for the show.
Yeah, which was super cool. I mean, like, because I had that comfort level where, like you said, it was part of Billy Corgan's World of the Vampire Tour, which that night, he performed, and I got to sit side stage for a Smashing Pumpkins concert.
That's awesome.
Which is also just like, this is not how life works, right? Like you don't just get to sit on the side stage while your boss, who just happens to be a world-renowned rock star, performs in front of thousands and thousands of people. And I got paid to do it. Like that's
like living your dream in another country in front of thousands of fans.
Yes. It was super cool. But yeah, it was a AAA versus NWA like mega show. I think there was 8 matches, but like there was just a comfort level because like when I got to the airport in Atlanta, I'm ordering my food and I hear Sal, and I turn around and it's Trevor Murdoch, which again, not like like that's still crazy to me, right?
Mhm.
Like this guy like was a WWE World Tag Team Champion, and he's calling me out in the airport.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like there was just a real it was real nice because there was that comfort of being with a bunch of the guys that I knew, the Aaron Stevens, the Trevor Murdochs, Tyrus, Chris Masters and I have gotten real close lately, which again, not
Yeah, that's crazy
what?
too.
What? That doesn't make sense. So yeah, it was really, really, really cool.
That's awesome. And I know Jack Cartwheel and Kerry Morton are turning a lot of heads lately. They're picking up a
Yes.
lot of steam, so that only adds to make it even better, even
Yeah,
cooler.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's cool. Especially like, Jack Cartwheel he did 2 matches last night at AEW. I think he did Rampage and Elevation. And I mean that kid's got such a bright future, just so athletically gifted, and Kerry's scary. I think he's got a great future as a heel. His father might fight me on that, but Kerry's 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 got a very punchable face.
Fantastic. And the thing about Jack Cartwheel, and we're going off on a million tangents, which is what we do whenever we talk.
Yes.
One thing I love about his style as a fan is sometimes when people are super athletic, not everything is as crisp. What he does often looks so crisp. Like it's beautifully done,
Yes.
but also
Yes.
it looks in there. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was, and it is in there. It's pretty. It was there. Like I'm not complaining, but
No, no.
I definitely knew when it was time to not be standing.
No whiffing there. All right. So I'm glad you had a great time. Let's quickly hit the plugs because again, normally I do that at the top and at the end, but I just wanted to talk about that while it was
Yeah,
relevant.
yeah.
So where can people find you and what should people check out?
You can find me at Sal Rinauro, Rinauro on Twitter, at Sal_Renaro on Instagram because I messed up making the first one. Um, Also, you can find lovely apparel like this
Pro Wrestling
at
Tees.
ProWrestlingTees.com / you guessed it, Sal Rinauro. You can those are the main spots, and then obviously you can see me pretty regularly on NWA Power and NWA USA. Tuesdays at 6:05 on YouTube and Saturdays at 12:05, all Eastern Standard Time.
And there you recently had a very memorable match with Mysterious Gags the Gimp. And people
Yes.
can see that on YouTube right now. I mean, these things take so long to go up. I don't know when this will actually be up. It could be a couple weeks from now, but still, it's there anytime, so people can check that out.
Easy access, guys. Find it whenever you want. Don't be afraid to just type it in the search bar. It's not that hard.
And of course, we'll have links to all your locations and your Pro Wrestling Tees store in the description and a video and a little graphic at the end. So make sure to follow them. Make sure to buy a T-shirt. Buy a couple T-shirts.
Yeah, don't be shy. I've got a plethora of them. I've got a He-Man one. I've got a Skeletor one. I've got this lovely guy. A couple other ones. I got a great Office tribute shirt. World's best wrestler on a mug. Come
Oh, I
on.
love that. I love that. All right, so and I do want to get to where we left off, and for those who can't remember or you watch that clips out of order or however you view it, we left off with you as the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion with Tony Mama. But before we get there was some questions or stories that were brought up that I didn't get a chance to touch on or that just left my mind. And I just wanted
Yeah.
to cover a few of those. One of the big ones is, and you've hyped me up for this because I want to hear it so badly. You mentioned a
Yes.
Jamie Noble story. I'm a big fan of Jamie Noble. I think he's one of the most unsung heroes wrestling. He's just incredible on the mic and the ring.
A billion percent. And he's even, he's even better as a human. If that's hard to believe, and I'll touch on that at the end of the story. But So when Jamie got released from WWE in 04, I found myself on a lot of shows with Jamie. So we became buddy, right? Uh,
In Ring of Honor or in the Indies or both? Because I know he did Ring of Honor, but
in the Indies, but they carried over to Ring of Honor.
all right.
Just because the thing is, we were doing a lot of the same towns, like it's like a lot of the Florida stuff with FIP, and like we did the Jeff Peterson Memorial Tournament together, and just a bunch of stuff. We just crossed paths a lot. And I was lucky enough to get to work with him. So I had met him originally in Wildside when he was still under contract to WCW as a member of the Young Dragons. So Jamie and I had a knowledge of each other, but we weren't really close until he had gotten released. And then we saw each other every weekend. And so we just kind of started hanging out more and more. Well, one weekend we're down in Florida together on a Friday. I'm booked in Alabama on Saturday. He's booked in PWG. It's the first time he's going to work AJ Styles. And then we're both booked together in New York on Sunday. So, we're talking on Friday, and I'm like, dude, please let me know how this match goes. Like, you and AJ, I can't imagine, like, you guys can lose literally all your limbs and just be stubs and still have an awesome match.
Yeah.
But, keep me posted on how it goes, I'll let you know, boy. Like, all right, cool. So Saturday he goes off, Sunday I go off. Or Saturday, we're both on opposite sides of the world. Sunday I land, and I can picture it almost like it was yesterday. We landed in LaGuardia, and I was landing about 30 minutes before him. So I said, screw it, I'll just wait it out. So I land, and I'm kind of waiting for Jamie, and I see him coming. And he walks up, I go, so Jamie, how was it? He goes, God, boy, everything was really good till he hit me with the secret shoot. And he walks away.
What?
And I go, Jamie, that's not a real thing. You just made up words. Like, you just hit me with slang and then walked away, but it's not common. Like, what are you talking about? He goes, boy, me and AJ tore it down. We did everything, man. Bang, boom. We had them laughing. We had them crying. I mean, these people felt something last night, right? And I was feeling real good. He's chopping me. I'm chopping him. We do this. And then I slip through. And then bang, he hits me with the Styles Clash. Boy, it felt great. It felt super. I went to bed. I ain't never felt better in my life. And then I woke up this morning and I hurt everywhere. That boy shot on me and didn't even tell me about it.
Oh my God, the secret shoot. I've never heard of that in my life. It's incredible.
Nobody's ever heard of that in their life. This is something Jamie just made up. But he said it like it was common knowledge.
Like you should know what it meant.
Yeah, this thing is like the way he said it with such. He said it like it was like, like I'm going to eat McDonald's. He hit me with the secret shoot. Like, am I the only one that doesn't know what this means?
That's incredible.
Yeah. But then, if you go back and watch that match, it is awesome. But yeah. So fast forward to December of last year, I was an extra at SmackDown in Tampa, and AJ happened to be there. And at one point, I look up, and AJ and Jamie had walked off, and I was like, "Oh no! Secret shoot! Secret shoot!"
That's great, and he's just awesome. I'm sure you saw he had that match out of retirement recently.
Yes.
How cool is that he got to have that?
It was so. I was, like I said, I was booked as an extra maybe 2 weeks after. So rewind just a little bit, probably three or 4 weeks before, literally the week before it was announced. So 3 or 4 weeks before then, I was an extra at SmackDown, and it's 9 o'clock, and we're not doing anything. Like, they didn't have anything for us, so I'm trying to sneak out the back door, right? And I got my bags packed up, and I'm kind of headed towards the door. And one of the other extras goes, "You're Sal, right?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Jamie Noble's looking for you." I was like, "Oh God." So, like I get my bag off and I run over to Gorilla, and Jamie goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just hanging out." He goes, "All right, I got to go agent this match real quick. I need to talk to you." And I'm like, "Okay." What he didn't tell me was this match that he had to agent was Gunther versus Nakamura, that like 45-minute main event.
Yep.
So guess who didn't sneak out early, right? So they get to the back, and Jamie talks to them about the match, and I'm kind of trying to listen in anyways, just to like, whatever gems of knowledge he drops, I'd be very interested in having. And then as soon as it's done, he goes, "Hey, walk with me." I was like, "All right." So I go, "What's up, man?" He goes, "Man, I just haven't seen you forever. We need to hang out more often. You want to hang out with me?" And I'm like, "Of course I do." And so we spent probably an hour and a half, 2 hours just catching up. And he told me in that time, he was like, "Yeah, I'm training. I think they're going to let me have one more." And I was like, "Oh, that'd be so cool." But he didn't even have all the details yet. So when it was announced that like he was getting to do it in his hometown, and like it was a main event with like the bloodline, I was just like, "Oh, that's super cool." So then, fast forward to afterwards, the Tampa show I was booked for, "Dude, Jamie, that was awesome." He goes, "Yeah, boy, it was real awesome. It was so awesome. I probably should have just beat Roman that night. I'm gonna pitch it."
Oh man, that's
Yes,
fantastic.
please pitch it. I'm all for. I'm all for Jamie being the guy to take down
The new
Roman.
tribal chief,
Yeah,
Jamie Noble.
sorry, Cody. I know you're over and moving merch and all that stuff, but come on, Jamie, by God, Noble.
That's awesome. That just raised a question, and we'll get to it in the future, I'm sure. We talked a lot about that Raw appearance you did, where you wrestled
Yes.
Omos, and then you talked about this. How often do you think you've done extra work for WWE? If you had to, I don't know if you have an idea of how many times over the years.
I actually tried to do the math in my head not too long ago, because it's just one of those things where like, man, I'm really lucky. I would say in my life, I've probably done no less than I've had no less than 50 extra spots. Uh, Not a lot. I mean, a lot of the times it's just not translated into television stuff. Like I've done dark matches, and I've done plenty of security spots, and like my favorite spot ever. Wait, have I told you my Goldberg spot?
You told me the security spot. I'm not sure about the Goldberg spot.
The spot where I was supposed to debut on. It was my first shot on Raw.
No, I don't think you did.
Okay, I'll touch on that in a minute. But like my favorite security or my favorite extra spot ever was, the night that Trish and Lita main evented Raw, where Lita finally wins the title.
Yeah,
It's every like whenever they do any kind of video package for the Women's Revolution,
it's right there.
they always go back to this match, which I remember Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano main event in Raw. Like I'm pretty sure it was the night after WrestleMania 11.
Sounds right.
But I digress. Uh, but the segment before that match, so like there's this historic match, right? That they still like play up to, which I'm pretty sure you're going to see coverage of it going into this year's WrestleMania, because Trish is there, because Lita's there. And I guarantee they'll touch base on this epic Raw main event. The segment before that, Trish is in the back getting ready, and she's stretching, and there's two guys pushing a trolley that stop and just stare at her. And as soon as she realizes she's being looked at, she snatches her head, and the guys run away. One of them's me, and one of them's Sergeant Slaughter's nephew.
That's so interesting.
That segment never gets any play. Like, come on.
That should be in the video packages, right?
Right? Like, Please don't let the world forget I'm creepy, ugly guy that will stare at Trish Stratus.
Well, here's the question: are you creepy, ugly guy number 1 or number 2?
Oh, definitely number 1, because number 2 was confused. He was
Okay.
concerned. I was like, no, buddy, follow my lead, kid. Well,
The Goldberg
but
story.
yeah. So the very first time I booked for Raw, it was the night that Goldberg, they were setting up Goldberg Rock for Backlash. It was the Rock concert where Gilbert comes out, then Goldberg comes out and destroys the set, right?
Mhm.
Not to show my age, but I've been doing WWE extra stuff since what was that, 03?
Yeah,
So,
20 years.
jeez. Oh, wow.
Sorry to throw that in.
Oh, wow. Right in the heart. Wow. It's been 20 years of extra work. That's wild. So anyways, so the whole segment was supposed to be, they were doing security guards in waves, right? So like, Rock's in the ring, Gilbert comes out, they have a laugh, Goldberg comes out, he's supposed to get to Gilbert, send security. Well, the way they had it set up, 2 security guys come out, Goldberg just hits them real quick. 2 more security guys come out, big move, they bail. 3rd wave comes out, spear, jackhammer. 4th wave comes out, gets up on the apron, sees the carnage, and just runs away. I'm one of the 4th wave guys, right? There's just 2 of us. I'm one of the 4th wave guys. And I was like, that's perfect. Like that's me in a nutshell anyways, right? So we're in Gorilla. Like we're at the curtain. Wave 1 goes and Goldberg just doesn't punch him. Goldberg like grabs him and he gets one in like the Kona Crush head vice. And like they can't bump and roll. So they're like, go, 2nd wave, go. So the 2nd wave goes. And now Goldberg's just got like these guys, but he's not letting them even control themselves out of the ring. I'm like, oh no. So 3rd wave goes, right? And I'm like, okay, this is it. Like I'm at the curtain. My nose is at the curtain. I am a piece of cloth away from being on Raw for the very first time in my life, right? Like this is childhood dream stuff, right? And Goldberg doesn't spear and jackhammer. Goldberg's just like awkwardly maneuvering these guys in different places in the ring, and nobody's taking clean bumps. And so I'm ready to go. You know, like I'm waiting on just go. I'm waiting for it. And they go, don't go, stop. 4th wave, don't go. And I'm like, no, 4th wave, go. 4th wave, go. And they're like, no. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work. Get out of this segment. I was just like, oh, heartbroken, crestfallen, right? Like I said, I was a piece of cloth away from, like I said, that was the first time I was booked as an extra. I was first time I would have been on Raw. But the cool part about it was afterwards, like I tried not to show that I was down, but like, it may have read on my face, but a bunch of us guys were kind of standing around, and The Rock, who at that point had already done Scorpion King, had already started, like making his name in Hollywood, who could have been Big League Bob and not said a word to anybody, and it would have been acceptable because he's The Rock, made sure to come up to each and every one of us and say, hey, thank you. It's not your fault. You got, I apologize for that not going as planned. But keep your heads up, guys. And it was just like, dude, you're you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you got the memo, but you're the freaking Rock.
That's so cool,
like,
though, that he would do that.
Yeah, 100%. So like, he'll always just have I have the utmost respect for that guy because, like I said, he could have just blown all of us off and not said a word. Yeah, no. Unbelievable, right? Like the Rock, out of all people, made sure to give us words of encouragement and be positive when he's super duper mega star Rock, and we're, and I'm guy that's a curtain away from just getting to run on Raw. Like that was awesome.
Didn't need to at all, and the fact that he did was great.
No.
Was your Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh, and like, and all's well that ends well. I eventually got to be on all the shows. So like,
Yeah, my question was going to be: was the eventual debut the one where you ogled Trish?
I believe, yes, I think that may have been my first time on Raw as an extra. I'm trying to, yes, the first time I was on Raw was staring at Trish's butt.
Not even going
And
to
I got
touch
paid.
that one.
Yeah, and I got paid for that too. Like, life is weird. Life is real weird.
So here's a random question: do you track, or have you ever tracked your matches or the states you've wrestled in, or is that something that? Because I know a lot of people wish they did it but never did.
Yeah, I don't. And I've got a buddy, like we just had this conversation this week where I was like, man, I can't tell you everything I've done this year. He was like, it's March. They're like, yeah, I know, but like, no, I kind of have an idea of, so like, I know I've at least driven through every continental state. I
Mhm.
know I've been to all 48. Uh, I can't tell you all the ones I've wrestled in, but I know it's a lot of them. Uh, but yeah, no, when I first started in Georgia, once I got to Georgia, I had started keeping a list, and it just kind of got lost in the chaos, which is, part of me wishes I would have done it, but then like every once in a while, so like Bill Barron's about a month ago goes, "Hey, do you remember when you wrestled Brian Cage?" I said, "Bill, I've never wrestled Brian Cage." He goes, "Yeah, you have." I said, "Bill, I think I would remember that." He goes, "Oh no, I'm about to post it." I didn't remember it either. I promoted it. I was like, "What?"
Really?
Yeah, and sure enough, there was a match at Anarchy in like 2007, 2008, somewhere in that ballpark.
So this is still young Brian Cage.
Yeah, I mean, he is not in the shape that he's in
No.
now, but because Bill said he was reading results and it said, Sal Rinauro beats Brian Cage. And I was like, well, maybe it was just a different guy. But he sends me the video. It sure enough was Brian Cage. I watched the match and can't tell you what happened in it. No recollection of this match at all. So when I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, nah, I've done some stuff.
Is he a guy you've ended up seeing more often, or is he not? Because as much as you're around, there's still going to be some guys who, even though they're around, just never really cross paths.
Yeah, no, he's one of those guys that I've probably seen maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. We just travel in different circles. I'm a fan of his stuff, though. I mean,
No, of course.
yeah, we're just ships passing in the night, it seems.
Another story you wanted to bring up, and I'm not sure exactly what it was. Last time we talked, I think it was a little before Hard Times, perhaps, and you said there was a new generation related story with NWA Hard Times, but I don't know what it was.
Oh heavens! Yeah, let's see if that. I'm trying to remember
I
hard
know you
times.
told me the Raven thing, the Raven phone call, and that was an excellent story. I very much enjoyed that about you wanting to join the flock.
Yes, yes. Hard times. There's no telling because most of my fandom is new generation.
Well,
uh,
that works because that leads into another question. Actually, when
yeah,
we
no, that's
in our
no. Go
first
ahead.
interview, we talked about how, as a kid, you really liked Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Randy Savage, and those were your guys. Once you broke in, who were some of your bigger influences that you would study and that really inspired your style? And even if you didn't necessarily model your style off of them, you found like their work inspiration, their story inspiring.
Yeah, so like 90% of the people I think my age, my size, Shawn Michaels. I
Yeah.
mean, just like so. And you stop me at any time if I'm repeating myself. But so like as a kid, like I wanted to be a wrestler, right? I want to be a pro wrestler. I would say it all the time. I would think about it. I want to be a pro wrestler. I want to be a pro wrestler. I was lucky enough to go to WrestleMania 12. Uh,
Really, that's cool.
and yeah. Like I mean, my seats were not good. Like, you, you know those shots of Edge at WrestleMania 6 where like you could see him in the crowd, like on the floor.
Yeah.
I'm literally the opposite. Like I'm higher than Sean when he's coming down on the zip line.
That's awesome.
But like that match was like my everything, right? Like I was so stoked because I was already a Shawn Michaels guy. Like I was always like even as a kid, like when I wasn't supposed to, like the Rick Rudes and the Mr. Perfects and like the smaller cocky heels, I always got into. They just, even and the Flares, they were just they just were very appealing to me.
In
So
90s Shawn, he defined that.
yes. And this thing is like that was that guy. So when he turned on Marty, I was hot. I mean, yeah. I was not happy about this situation. But then, like, especially since Marty was going through one of his 822 firings, so it was just Shawn, right? And so, like, I see him and I'm just like, oh, this guy's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I dug Shawn, forever. And then he does the babyface turn and he's just like this. He's just the best wrestler on the planet. And I'm fortunate enough to be at WrestleMania 30 or 31, WrestleMania 12. And like I'll never forget that feeling. He hits the super kick, 1, 2, 3. I don't hear Vince say it, but the boyhood dream has come true, right? And I'm losing my mind and I'm stoked. And it went from I'm gonna be a pro wrestler to I'm going, like I have no other choice. Like this is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. Like I remember that like light bulb clicking in my head. So Sean's always been a guy that just like he's my guy. Like he's just he's my favorite. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. But even so, like Jarrett, I studied a lot of Jarrett.
Underrated.
Yeah, he's just extremely.
And him and Shawn, amazing match together right in your house.
And this thing is so like Jarrett was another one of those cocky, smaller heels, right? So he just fit in that vein of that's just kind of how I always saw myself making money is that over the top, arrogant, cocky heel. But then like you would see clips of these ECW guys, like before Nitro, when you would see like the Eddie Guerreros and the Rey Mysterios in ECW and the Juventudes. It's just like, I don't even understand the mechanics of what I just saw, but I want to do all of it. So, I would try to blend them together. But like, so just Sean, Eddie, I mean, your typical guys. But then like I also have such an affinity for Ahmed Johnson.
Yeah. Oh,
he's my favorite. I love Ahmed Johnson.
The Pearl River Plunge. Oh,
yes,
I loved it.
Yes, and people will laugh when I say it, but like I genuinely, I might be the world's biggest Ahmed Johnson fan. Like he's just that dude. Like, and there's just an element. It's not just the intensity that he had in his matches, but like there's such an aspect of realism because you don't know if he's hurting somebody or not.
Yeah.
Like, which is awesome. Like
the kind of person you can love as a fan. Maybe if you're wrestling him, you might have a different perspective.
It might not be might not be your favorite day at the office, but it's funny just because like I've become to a lot of people the Ahmed Johnson guy. Where like especially like Chris Hero, anytime he sees anything Ahmed Johnson, he messages me immediately. And I'm like, yeah, you get it.
That's great. And there was a Twitter thread going around recently with just a bunch of random Ahmed Johnson clips. And like, especially when he first came into the WWF at the time, and he was just always like screaming when he was doing every random move, like a maniac. And he had so much intensity.
It was so good. So my buddy Marvin and I, this was a few years ago, we started it. He came up with the idea. He goes, hey, you want to just watch in chronological order every Raw And then when we get to 95, we'll do Raw and Nitro, and then the pay-per-views and clashes and things like that. And I was like, yeah, I think I do want to do that.
Yeah.
So like I've recently relived all of Ahmed's run, and it's still the best to me. I love him so much. Like he's just such a believable dude. Uh he's just one of my favorites. I can't describe it. He's just like it. Nothing he does comes across in anything I do, but every once in a while you'll see me hit a Pearl River plunge, and it's 100% because of Ahmed Johnson. It's not because Scott Steiner. It's not because Amasawa or somebody like that. No, it's absolutely a Pearl River plunge, and it's because Ahmed Johnson's the man.
If you ever do any of the Halloween themed where you dress up in a battle royal as a guy from the past, you need to do an Ahmed Johnson just with the knee pads.
Yes. Well, so like a lot of my gear I get, there's usually some kind of meaning behind them. It's something as simple as like I've got a pair of silver and black gear. It's because I'm a Raiders fan, or like my gear guy just made me a set of purple gear with red and yellow logos, like Razor Ramon, because I like, Razor Ramon was another one of my favorites.
Awesome.
And I have spent hours trying to figure out the best way to combine Ahmed Johnson into my gear without having to wear 106 knee braces.
Yeah.
Just because he was always that red. It was just a plain red. I am trying to figure out a way to start carrying a jug of milk to the ring like he did as Big T in WCW.
That was a memory I did not even have unlocked in my brain until just now.
Yeah. Why? So speaking of Ahmed Johnson, and me as an extra. So I was an extra for Clash of the Champions a few years ago. This is still when it was Sunday pay-per-view, Monday Raw, Tuesday SmackDown. So I'm booked Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Well, Sunday was Clash of the Champions, and this is when Bischoff was back for that, 83 days.
Yeah.
He was back. And I just happened to be standing around, and he goes, "Hey, do you mind taking a picture of me real quick? In front of the Clash of Champions logo?" And I was like, "You're clever." I go, I'll do it, but I get at least one question. And he goes, "You sure? Knock yourself out." I was like, "All right, sweet." So, like I kind of waved a couple buddies over too, right? Like, "Hey, get in on this. I'm about to, drill Eric Bischoff for some questions." So we take a couple pictures, and he goes, "Okay, I'm a man of my word. Hit me." And everybody kind of, looks around like they don't have anything. I was like, "All right, fine. Screw it. I'll do it." 1998, Ahmed Johnson gets released. At what point do you realize this guy that was super hot on the other channel is a free agent? And why wasn't he hired immediately? And he goes, "I didn't have room." I was like, "Wait, you don't have room for Ahmed Johnson? Are you kidding me?" And he goes, at that time, I just brought Brett in, and we kind of already saw that it's not working as well as we wanted to. And I didn't know where to put him on Nitro. I didn't know where to put him on Thunder. I couldn't just put him on Saturday night. So he had name value, but I didn't know what to do with him yet. So it became a wait and see, and I just waited too long. And then they brought him in once I got fired. And I was like, "Dude, you brought in Ultimate Warrior and you didn't bring in Ahmed Johnson. What are we doing? This is a horrible decision. No wonder you got fired." So yeah, I had a Q&A with Eric Bischoff, and all I wanted to do was talk about Ahmed Johnson.
Worth it though. Absolutely worth it.
Absolutely worth it. I could have asked him about Sting's tan or Starrcade 97. Ahmed Johnson's the way.
Was that your only experience ever dealing with him, or did you ever see him anywhere else at
No,
any other point?
I know. So when I was when I was doing merch and stuff with TNA, was during the Hogan regime. So we would see him at TV pretty often, but he kept to himself a lot. He would, he would come by like the merch stand to get some stuff, and he was always very nice and friendly to me. But not the most approachable of individuals, especially at that time. He's become a lot more approachable since then. Since he's been doing this podcast with Conrad, I've seen him a couple places, and he's definitely a lot easier to kind of corner and badger about nonsensical, height of the Attitude Era pro wrestling questions.
Yeah, I know. He's talked about saying like he's a lot more willing to beat himself up now, and B, he's less defensive from I guess it's understandable to an extent too, because I can't even imagine the amount of onslaught he got from so many people for so long. So he was probably spent so much time on the defensive that you're just not constantly have your fists up when anybody's around, even for no reason.
Yeah. And like I said, especially in that TNA run, it wasn't morale wasn't the best across the board, and we only saw him on TV days. Like the whole crew was so much more relaxed on house show days. Like that's where I got to like badger Kurt Angle a lot. Were the house shows, because he, it's just there's not as much pressure on a house show as there is, TV days.
Sal, I have bad news for you. I did not know you did this, so you just added like another hour or 2 hours of future questions, because I'm gonna need to know all about this in the future.
Yes, no, I'm a fortunate dude, man. I've experienced some stuff. It's been a wild ride.
Because I have a ton of questions, and this wasn't even included because I didn't even know about it. So
yeah,
that's crazy. All right, just a few more that I promise we'll get back to Ring of Honor.
We'll get there one day, right? It's not going anywhere.
At least these next ones are Ring of Honor related. But they're individuals from Ring of Honor. A guy who is brought up all the time on the channel. We have a lot of West Coast people that we've talked to, and then NWA people, and he has a big relationship with both. And of course, you talked about him a little bit by telling a story from your Raw experience before. Adam Pearce.
Oh my God, I love Pearce. I just he's the definition of the good brother. I mean, he's the best brother. So when I first met Pearce down in Florida at FIP, and I think the first time I met him was a night I worked him, and we just instantly had this goofy chemistry where I've never been afraid to look like an idiot. It doesn't take a lot of work to make me look like an idiot anyways. So when I'm pitching ideas to make myself look even dumber than I am, guys tend to enjoy that, because then they don't have to look like the idiots.
It's reasonable.
And that's one of the, I can't remember the exact thing it was, but I know it ended up with him doing a big whirly bird punch, and me taking an uppercut and going way too high over the top rope on it. But I just love Pearce to death. Pearce is the guy, that took over for Gabe after Gabe got let go at Ring of Honor. And it's funny because it's funny now. At the time, not hilarious in the least. So Gabe had pulled me aside in October of, what year was that? I guess 2008?
Sounds right. I think so.
It had to have been October of 2008. He pulls me aside and he goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know contracts are coming up in March. Yours is one of the first ones I'm signing. Like, I've got a deal waiting for you in March. Just bear with me. It's, just a couple months." And I'm like, "Oh my God, yeah. Okay." And he goes, "In the meantime," and he gave me like 5 or 6 Ring of Honor dates.
So did you already have a contract at that point? I know we're just kind of jumping ahead, but I'm curious.
No. I've never been contracted.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything was pay per appearance for me.
All right.
So, but like that's the goal, right? You want a contract. So like I'm stoked, I'm having this conversation with them, and then I get the news. Gabe's out. I'm just like, no, like he just
Oh,
told me he was gonna sign me.
brutal.
And so I'm like, well, who's taking his place? Because like I've got proof that he's given me like X amount of dates, but like I need to make sure I'm still on these dates. So, there was about a day where nobody knew who was taking over. And then it turns out it was Pearce. And I was like, oh my God, this is great news. So I, show my age. I send him a message on MySpace. Just like, hey, Pearce, Gabe gave me this date, this date, this date, this date. Like I've got the email to prove it. Like I'm not just, I'm not trying to take advantage of a situation, although I will if you want me to. Uh, and he goes, yeah, you don't need any proof. You're on. Just tell me the dates he had you for. You're on them. And he always took such good care of me. And like Pearce was the guy who made sure like I had something to do on those ROH on HDNet TVs.
Mhm.
Yeah, like because he told me he was he was kind of handcuffed by the position he was in because he couldn't sign the guys he wanted to sign. Because he told me one time, he goes, hey, like I would love to put you under contract. They're not letting me sign the people I want to sign. Everybody I want to sign has to be run up the flagpole and it's litigation. And he goes, I can offer dates. He goes, I'm going to give you these dates. I can't promise, you're going to be pushed. I can't promise you're going to get a great spot, but I can promise you'll be on. All I need is an opportunity.
Yeah.
And religiously took care of me and, made sure I had at least a character, because like my whole gimmick there was and on the HDNet tapings was I was just the wrong place, the wrong time guy. Anytime something bad happened, I just happened to be standing around the corner and getting stuck in the middle of it. And that was all Pearce's brainchild. And he took very, very good care of me. And it's still every time I see him when I'm booked for a Raw, for a SmackDown, it's such a big hug, and he's always so ecstatic to hear me and always takes time out of his day to hear stories and just to chat. And I can't say enough good things about Pearce, and I'm super happy that he's in the position he's in.
And he's
Still not
incredible
offering
at
me
what
a
he does.
contract.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's got to work on that.
no.
He's got to work on
Yeah,
that.
still not offering me a deal. He's consistent in that. So
We did an interview with Captain Johnny Yuma. A plug, guys, go check that out. And
yes.
I don't think the videos are out yet, but I think they'll be out in the next couple of days as of when we're recording this. And he talked about Adam Pearce at length. He told a great story of their first match together. It's fantastic.
Okay,
Again,
yeah.
check that out. And
now that we're talking, this just hit me. So the last time I saw him, he goes, "Hey, what's this?" He goes, "Do you remember this?" And he pulls up a picture of me, and it's backstage at the ECW arena, and I'm in like business cash clothes, but for some reason my arm is duct taped like over the shoulder, and like an insane amount of duct tape, like a pound of duct tape. I was like, I don't. Where did this come from? He goes, I don't know. It was just on my phone.
that's
I had so many questions. Why do you have age-old pictures of me on your phone? Like,
and how did that happen?
Yeah, it's like, what is happening? But yeah, if anybody has any information about
Please,
me at the ECW arena covered in duct tape, please let me know, because I don't know why this happened, but Pearce has it on his phone.
contact Sal. Let me know. I'll pass it along.
Please.
But yeah, like I was saying with the Yuma thing, we just talked, and I said we were talking about his incredible series with Koko B, the 7 levels of hate,
Yes.
that incredible stuff. And I remember saying, like, who would have thought then he would be in the position he is now? And Yuma was like, oh, if you knew him then, you wouldn't be surprised at all, because if you saw how he
Yes.
was backstage and how he worked with
Yes.
people, and he was sometimes a no BS kind of helper, where like he would.
Yes.
Was that the same experience with you? Like,
What then the thing is like, yeah, I mean, very much so. Where, but I was the opposite. Where like he would break down everything he needed from me, but he also had a ton of faith in me. Where he would kind of just say, "Hey, this is what I need," and just let me go. And then I was all the BS. Like like he would constantly, like I maybe like I said, it's just our chemistry or whatever. But like all we ever did was goof off. We constantly were goofing off, and playing games. But like I've seen him, I've seen that side of him, and this thing, like Yuma said, if you knew him, you would know. Like he's in the role he was meant to be in. Uh when again back to the TNA stuff when they were doing the gut checks. I got the card before I think it was Texas. Texas, maybe. It doesn't matter where we were. I knew Pearce was booked for gut check before it was announced. So I sent them a message like, yo, I heard you're going to be in, wherever. I heard you're going to be in Dallas Wednesday. Please confirm. I forgot I had changed numbers since the last time I had messaged with him. So he writes back, who is this? And I was like, oh, I go, it's not Dave Meltzer, but it's close enough. I just need to get my dirt sheet going. And he was like, where'd you get my number from? So then I called him. I was like, dude, it's me. And he was like, you idiot. I was about to fight you. Like, you can still fight me. You'll win. I mean, it's not going to take you much to knock me out, but.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and gut check, that was an interesting concept too. Again, so much we could talk about in the future.
Yeah.
Pearce is great. And you brought up another name that I wanted to cover more. Gabe. You talked about when you first met Gabe, and we'll probably talk more about your dynamic with him and ideas he gave you and direction he gave you. Overall, though, what were your impressions of Gabe, in the years you worked with him in Ring of Honor, and has that changed or evolved in any way since then?
It's such a deep respect for everything he's done. I mean, it's inarguable, right? Like this is the guy that not single-handedly, but I mean, he carved the way the industry is in a lot of ways right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like when WWE was the only show in town, or even when there was a TNA, like even with TNA, they were using a lot of those guys that were getting their first pushes from Gabe.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, I've heard the knock on Gabe before where, it doesn't take a genius to push Bryan Danielson or Samoa Joe or CM Punk or, the litany of names. And no, it doesn't take a genius to do it, but it takes a very, 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 very talented man to stroke all those egos.
Yeah.
And, and not just give everything away, right? Like, one of my all-time favorite wrestling stories is Homicide's chase to the world title.
Yeah.
And, and there's a lot of people that have pulled the trigger on that real quickly. And Gabe made you wait. And Gabe made you wait. And Gabe made you wait. And he made you want it. And he made you want it. And he made you want it. And they finally got to Brooklyn, right? They got to New York, where D is from. And then they do that one swerve at the end where it looks like it's a disqualification. And then Homicide wins the title, right? And it's the little nuances that I don't think Gabe gets a lot of credit that he deserves. And then, I mean, even after the Ring of Honor exile, he kind of became blackballed from a lot of stuff, and then he does Dragon Gate. Everybody wants to be Gabe's friend again, and then he gets Evolve going, and then Evolve turns into this thing that, WWE is just, I like you, I like you, I like you, I like you. You come play, you come, like they're just picking guys, and Gabe just keeps on finding talent, to this day, and now he's still scouting talent. I still speak to Gabe off and on, and like he gave me so many opportunities. Like he saw more in me when I was younger than I saw in me. Like he's the one that put me in a team with Brian Kendrick. He's the one who month after month would put me in the ring with Samoa Joe and CM Punk and Jamie Noble, and I mean the list goes on and on and on.
Amazing
and on.
learning opportunities.
Yeah, we're just like, and especially like at that time where like Jamie's getting ready to go back to WWE. Hendrick's getting ready to go back to WWE. Punk is Punk. Like this is indie run Punk, like his big like breakout run, and he's got me down in Florida teaming with Cabana, and he's got me like I'm forever grateful for everything Gabe's done for me and continues to do for me. He still helps me out. So I'm like I've got nothing but respect for Gabe. A couple of years ago, I was booked as an extra at NXT. This is pre-pandemic, and Gabe was there, and I hadn't seen him yet. And I get a tap on the shoulder, and I turn around. He goes, "Sal, do you even age?" And I was like, it depends. Can I lie on my contract?"
Always looking for that contract.
Because then no, I will never age. I'm Peter Pan-esque. But yeah, like I've got nothing but complimentary things to say to Gabe. Like, I mean, he put the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles on me, right? Like,
were you happy to see him go back to WWE last year?
100%, 100%. He's too good at what he does. I mean, the guy knows how to find talent. He knows how to cultivate talent. He knows how to get guys in the position to learn. Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy for Gabe and all his successes.
Putting quite the team together too. You have Gabe, you got Regal back now, and that's huge.
Yes,
Ryan Katz is back, and you're just Road Dogg's back, and
Road Dogg, yep.
You're seeing a lot of the pieces come together, and it's good to see. It's good to see.
Yes.
And you brought up an interesting point about the whole it doesn't take a genius to push Samoa Joe and CM Punk. In our last interview, you talked about a similar criticism that Triple H got, where it doesn't take a genius to grab Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano and put them, but nobody else was doing it, which was your point with that. And same thing.
And the thing is, it's not just grabbing them, right? Because you could to go back to Eric Bischoff, you look at the talent he had in '98, right? Like that roster was stupid. It was so deep, minus Ahmed Johnson. But you can have all that talent, but if you don't know how to position it, you've just got a lot of talented people hanging out.
Yeah.
Both Triple H and Gabe have that ability to not just find the talent and get the talent, but put the talent in positions to make money for themselves and for the company. And that's where the genius comes into play.
And your point about the storytelling is great too, because sometimes I think fans have this, but I think a lot of, quote unquote analysts and stuff like that, they look at the one moment and sometimes they don't have enough vision for the future. It's really easy to somebody's hot, put a title on them without telling the story. And the biggest proof in the pudding right now is arguably the best story in ever. One of the
So my buddy texted me after, I think it was going into the chamber, and goes, or maybe it was the night after, irrelevant. He texted me, he goes, "Is this Bloodline?" Oh, it was after Rumble. He goes, is this Bloodline angle the best wrestling angle you've ever seen? And I said, well, I'm not going to say the best ever just because I got to see how it ends. But in the moment, I can't name one that's better.
Yeah.
Like it's so good. But to the point, I love Sammy. I've teamed with Sammy every time I go to a show and I see Sammy. It's big hugs and catching up, and we share stories about our kids, and like it's not just like, oh, this guy's really 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 stupid good at his job,
Yeah.
uh, which he is,
and genuine human being with his charity efforts. And
yes, no, he's just the best of the best. But like, if you would have told me 5 years ago, hey, I think they should put the title on Sami Zayn, like, yeah, sure, why not? But Elimination Chamber was not the time.
No.
And the proof is in the pudding, in that I have yet to hear Cody have a bad reaction. Like, I keep on hearing
the analysts.
It's going to be the Daniel Bryan thing, where nobody wanted Batista and they're going to have to put Sammy into the main event at WrestleMania. No.
Yeah.
Cody's that guy. Like, and the beauty of pro wrestling is it's not baseball. It's not MLB. It's not NFL. It's not NBA. WrestleMania is going to happen. That's going to be the culmination of whatever they got going on. It will culminate at WrestleMania. And then you hit restart the next night. So if Sammy's not in the main event of WrestleMania, which he should not be, although if you tell me night one of WrestleMania is main evented by the Usos versus Zayn and Owens, I'm not going to be upset.
No, and that's a testament, because it's not like tag team wrestling has normally been a focus in WWE. So normally you would hear that and you'd be like, that doesn't sound right. But the story is Sammy. It's amazing.
It's so, and the thing is, like, there's just been like little things where, like, like so many people expected at the Chamber, that's when Jay's going to turn. Mm-hmm. Me included. I thought, my son and I were talking about it that whole day, and I was like, oh, there's no way Sammy's winning tonight because Jay's going to turn. And where they did that one little dip where instead of Jay turning, Sammy accidentally speared Jay.
Yeah.
And then Roman gets the win. It's just like, oh, this story is way better than I could have. Yeah. Like, I've already known it was awesome, but like just that little dip, it's just like, oh man, oh, it's so good.
And what I love about the story is that it seems like that keeps happening. Even probably dating back, I would say, as far as Survivor Series, War Games, when Sammy turned. Which, by the way, the parallels of that happening in the same building is where Jay just turned on. Beautiful. Yes. But it seems like every time, like, you're like, okay, this is where it's going to go. Then they take a bit of a swerve. They're still in the same destination, but the way they get there, and they're just amazing promos. Heyman, Roman, Jimmy, Jay, Sammy, Kevin, Cody, they're all incredible. And then Solo does great at his job. He's not the promo guy, but
he's not the he
does great what he does. Yeah. But like promo-wise, that's like 7 people cutting amazing, authentic promos constantly.
So good. It's just, and it's funny just because I actually just gave this lecture like last weekend, where I've got a couple buddies who are fringe wrestling fans that are hooked right now, that they're all in on the story right now. They're like, oh man, it's so good right now. And I go, hey, guess what? You tell me that every year about January to March. You want to know why? Because they're gearing up for WrestleMania every year around January to March. This is when they hit on all cylinders.
Yeah.
This is what they do. They're not trying to peak at Money in the Bank. Trust me, I love a good Money in the Bank ladder match, but that's not this is when they want to be at their best, and they've got the performers that are by far at their best, and it's made for such good television. It's like, but yeah, going back to like putting the right people in their places and in their positions. We're like, coming out of this, Cody's going to have to work with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Sami Zayn can be ready in the wings, right? Yeah. So like, you tell me you wouldn't be interested, and that's if Cody wins.
Yeah.
My money says he does, but again, I've been wrong. But you tell me, coming out of WrestleMania, that somewhere down the line, Cody versus Sammy wouldn't be a match with money on it? Like, come on, what are we doing?
Think Cody and Owens, because Owens, he can ride that can be a
Yep.
heel, can be like
Yep.
the babyface who's still kind of a jerk so well.
Yes.
And so,
yes.
and then to me, a money match, and I don't know if you'll agree with this. This might be unpopular. I don't think it's unpopular at this point. I think at like SummerSlam or Money in the Bank in England, Roman and Jay, they've got to have a big match at some point. The story has been being told for 2.5 years now.
No, keep it going. The thing is, like, my son a couple weeks ago was playing on YouTube, and he goes, "Hey, Dad, come do this wrestling quiz with me." And I was like, "Why? You're going to get embarrassed." And he goes, "No, I think this was going to be tough." I was like, "All right, man, let's see what you got." And it was a quiz all about the Thunderdome era.
Oh wow!
And I was like, "Oh no, this thing going to happen in the Thunderdome era." And like it was a little more difficult than I thought it'd be. I still crushed him because I'm not going to get beat by some 12-year-old punk. But it was tricky. But as I was watching it, I was like, man, what good came out of the Thunderdome? And the best thing, and I'll die on this hill. Roman Reigns learning how to talk during matches because there was no crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So Roman just saying things is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such an added element that's just like, oh, this guy he's not even hitting on all cylinders. Like the shape has not been invented to describe what Roman Reigns is hitting on right now.
He says a God mode, like in character, but really, I mean, and here's a guy who, let's face it, he didn't have a reputation for being a great talker for a long time.
No,
was criticized quite heavily. The infamous Cena and
Suffertash.
Yeah, and the Cena Roman promo where
yeah.
And now Roman is incredible, as good on the mic as anybody.
Yes, no, he's the guy. He is that guy. Like the guy that they wanted him to be, he's become and then tripled. He's incredible in every way.
All right, another person, and again, we're going to get to Ring of Honor. Again, Ring of Honor related. He's a guy who he tends to get the most views on the channel, so I also wanted to slide him in for that very reason.
Yeah, come on.
Got to get those views, try to get a few more subscribers.
100%.
Jim Cornette. He is a lightning rod for controversy, but you want to talk about amazing talkers, there's arguably none better.
So this is another one of those life is weird things. I've recently become really close with Dr. Tom,
which is awesome.
I still like, I don't understand how this happened, but it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like going back to the gear tributes I probably got them somewhere around here. When Tom first came to NWA, I've known Tom for a while, but like every time I see Tom, I'm always like, hey, I'm going to need you to tell me some Body Donna stories. And he's like, I will fight you. I will punch you in your face. I'm like, well, no, I'm dead serious. Like, I love the Body Donnas. Like, again, they're Ahmed Johnson level awesome to me. Like, and then he's like, Ahmed Johnson, I'm going to punch you. Like, oh.
Just getting more heat.
Yes. So at one of the tapings, I was like, dude, next time you see me, I'm going to have a present for you. He's like, you're an idiot. Go away. So at the next taping, and I've got it recorded, I pull him aside right in front of photography. And I got a buddy that recorded it. I said, Tom, last time I saw you, I told you I'd have a little something for you. And here it is. And I pull off my pants and I have a pair of gear like with my style, but it's Body Donna's color with the triangle in the front. And he's just like, and so like I'm expecting this huge, like, I'm gonna punch in the mouth, but like he stopped and he kind of got a little choked up. And he was like, oh man, that's really cool. Like that means the world to me. I'm like, no, Tom, that's not what I want. Ball fist up. I say all that to say, like, I've long been I became introduced to Dr. Tom as one of the heavenly bodies. Through Smoky Mountain. And so I met Cornette through Barron's years and years ago. And Cornette used to send Barron's the weekly OVW TV. And Barron's was like, I don't know why I'm getting this. And I was like, oh, so you can give it to me. And so he would. So, like, in 01, 02, 03, every week I would have a copy of the OVW TV sent straight from Cornette.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so after he got his release, I would see him on Indie Shots, and I eventually told him, like, oh yeah, Barron's used to give me those OVW tapes, like I was such a big fan of all that stuff. And so we became very cordial with each other, where like I would see Cornette and it was always, a good hug, and we would have a conversation just about whatever. And I would always try to pick his brain. I was controversial, absolutely. But I also think that's just part of who he is, right? That's where his money's made, in his controversy.
I mean, it's always been the Challenger promo 35 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of who Cornette is. He knows his role better than anybody, I think, in the history of pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows how to make money off playing that role.
Yeah.
But like when NWA started, Cornette was the color commentator. And I'll never forget the first day, the first set of tapings, I'm walking down the hallway and he cuts a corner and he kind of stops and he goes, I can't get rid of you, can I? And I was just like, why would you want to get rid of me? And he was like, that's a very good point. I don't want to get rid of you. You get beat up very well. I'm like, thank you, Jim Cornette.
Say, that's a great compliment from Jim Cornette.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. And like, there's been a ton of stuff like in Georgia where I've got to do matches where he's managed against me. And like we did an angle where like I stole his tennis racket. Like that's right. Like crazy stuff. Like that's not something I could have ever fathomed as a child. Like this is the dude that like he manages one of the best tag teams in the history of pro wrestling, and he's managing Yokozuna and Owen Hart, and like now he's at ringside yelling at me. Like, what is happening? But like I know some people don't like Cornette. I am not one of those people. He's always been very, very, very gracious with his time. He's always been super cool to me. And, he let me steal his tennis racket. So, well, what more can I ask for?
Was the tennis racket loaded, though?
No, it was an unloaded tennis racket. Yeah.
Didn't need to have something in it at that point.
Yeah, no, that's Sly Fox. He knew what he was doing.
With him, he's just, to me, regardless of your stance, and I think this is what people forget, it's okay if you don't agree with him. I'm sure there's stuff everybody, even his closest friends, won't agree with a lot of his takes. And, you can't deny how great he was as a performer. That's just my biggest thing.
No.
And even now.
Undeniable. Yes.
His wit is next level, too. Like, he's so sharp and quick with it.
And he's such a beacon. Like he just got so much knowledge of that territory system where like at the end of the day, people forget like he's a fan.
Yeah.
Like, like a lot of his perspective comes from a guy that's a fan that made a lot of money in pro wrestling.
That's why he's so opinionated
first. And that's the thing, that's why he's passionate about it, because he cares, because that's his opinion. Whether you agree with it or not, it's very irrelevant. Doesn't matter. But he's free to have his opinion because he's been watching wrestling longer than 80% of the people have been alive.
Yeah.
All right. So like let him have this opinion. Whatever his opinion is, you don't have to agree with it. But he drops knowledge in his opinion too, or it's just like, I never looked at it that way before.
And even if you don't, like, just like that, even if you don't agree with every point he's making, and he has a very colorful way of expressing things. But if you can get
Yes.
past that, I mean, here's a guy who, he was a teenager doing photography in Memphis, and he's
Yes.
done every facet of the business. He's wrestled, he's booked, he's been on the writing team, he's been an on-screen figure, commentator, obviously the arguably top 3 greatest manager of all time. I
Yeah.
personally put Heenan number 1 always. I would say Heyman's probably number 2 or up there, and Cornette's right there too.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, and he's excelled in so many different avenues in pro wrestling. Like I can't say enough about Heyman. I can't, but I can't say enough about Cornette. And like I said, like I love whenever I get the chance to just sit down and talk that Smoky Mountain stuff with him. It's just so cool. It's this thing is like you can just give him a topic and say go and just sit back and listen.
Yeah.
And you just learn, right? Like I've been very fortunate to spend more time than your average human being with Jim Cornette, and every experience has been awesome.
That's great. That's great. Now we're going to rewind finally. I think we're going to 2005. I think that's
All right, let's get there. Yeah.
Okay, you and Tony Mamaluke, we're an hour and 15 minutes into the interview, and I'm finally getting there.
We made it.
You and Tony Mamaluke, you became the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. You guys can check out the clip or the full previous interview. That's all there on the YouTube at Armbars and Sidebars. You talked about it. I love the clip. I had to put it because when we do the clips, you got to try to get as many eyes as possible. So I made sure to use the quote about Tony Mamaluke hating you, in the thumbnail, because how long were you guys actually like a tag team together? Because I know it didn't end up going that long because he ended up leaving.
Yes, no, it was October to March.
Okay, well that's a little longer than I thought. Okay.
Yeah, I think our last show together was at the ECW arena, which now that I say that out loud,
that's cool.
A team with Tony Mamaluke at the ECW arena, like
you have so many amazing moments that you can just look back on and be like, what?
Yeah, no, that's wild. Like I just wow. But yeah, it wasn't that long, but it was an incredible journey. And hindsight being what it is, like maybe it wasn't as bad as it felt in the moment. But like I said, he just everything I believed in, he believed in the opposite. We
like
just,
your wrestling beliefs or
all of it. Name it.
You say the sky's blue. He's like, no, I think it's green.
Yeah, I hate you. It's gray. I'm like, I don't, bro. Like, you're looking at the ground. No, I'm not. I'm looking at the sky. Like, all right, man. I don't know what to tell you.
That never alleviated over time. That didn't like.
No. So that's the thing is like we're super close now.
All right.
Yeah, like now and I think he was going just through he wasn't comfortable with the evolution of what wrestling was anymore. He kind of had his way and he was kind of stuck to it. And did I use the oil analogy with you?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well I'll just do it again and you can do what you want with it. I always say Mamaluke and I are like cooking oil and sex oil.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, but you say it again, please. Yeah. It's great. It's
great. Yeah. They're both really good when you use them the right way. You just don't want to mix your cooking oil up for your sex oil.
I love that.
Your eggs are going to get all messy, and it's just a train wreck. And that was Mamaluke and I. But like it's really wild now because he's a big sports guy, NBA, NFL. Major League Baseball, and I'm a sports guy too. So we text each other year round about sports. And, we laugh, we joke, he's a 49ers guy, and I'm a Raiders guy. So we're both miserable together. I'm a Lakers guy, and he loves to give me grief about the Lakers, but he's also there for me. Like when they're good, he likes to like, yeah, there you go, get in the game. Uh so yeah, our relationship's really good now. But that tag title run, I mean, I just remember there would literally be times in the matches where Mama Luke was booed and I was cheered. So Mama Luke would get tagged in and the crowd would hate it. And the minute he would touch me in, they'd pop. And then I'd touch him back in and they'd boo. Like, this is a weird dynamic. And knowing what I know now, I would have been able to capitalize on it more.
Mhm.
But hindsight's always 2020. I do think there was a dynamic there that we could have worked with more. That we just, I don't think either one of us really knew that we could have caught lightning in a bottle. And it's not a regret because I don't believe in regrets so much. But I think we could have used, if we had a chance to do it over again, I think I would have approached it in a different manner. And I think he would have still been miserable and hated me anyway. So it's okay.
That's super interesting though, because this was right before the era of the split crowds really started to take off.
Yes,
John Cena was just about to get his push, and he's probably the poster boy for the split crowds. So
yes.
I can definitely see why you say in retrospect you could have played around with it, but that wasn't a huge thing that was super common back. That was just starting to get into it.
Yeah, and this thing, especially as a team, right?
Yeah.
So like, I would, like I said, I would have. I having the knowledge I had now, I definitely would have had a lot more fun with it, and been able to tell different style stories. As long as Tony would have let me. He was again not a happy man at that time in his life.
Did he genuinely call things for you guys, or was it split? Did you?
No. So a lot of the times, and then that was kind of where we didn't work as a team. Is there was a lot of times where he would call his thing, and then it would be touch me in, and then I would go into a different direction. And then he would want to go left and I would want to go right. But we never ironed out a straight path in the middle. It was always, I want to do it this way. Well, I kind of want to do it this way. Well, you're an idiot. Yeah, you're probably right. Like that's, I mean, even to when we first started, I kind of the idea was for us to be a babyface team, and in my brain, I was like, I'm an unknown quantity. You're Tony Mamaluke, right? Like you're a known guy. You were ECW World Tag Team Champion. You've been everywhere. In my brain, I'm the guy that takes heat because they would want to see the ECW guy.
Yeah.
So the whole match would be beat me up. So I'm working to get the ECW guy in. So once I finally get that hot tag, there's the pop. And he completely disagreed. It was just like, no, my best trait is selling. My best stuff is bumping. I need to take the bumps. I need to sell. You can come in super hot and you can do all sorts of cool stuff. And so like that's literally before we even had our first match. This is what we're discussing. I'm like, oh no, this might not. We could be in trouble here. Yeah, we could be in a little bit of trouble. And so a lot of the times it just kind of, we let the match dictate who was doing what, as opposed to going in with a unified game plan, per se. A lot of it was very predicated on who we were working with too. So like we worked with Cabana and now I can't think of his name, the Italian supermodel, but he was Asian and he was awesome. Milano Collection 18.
Oh, okay.
We worked with them in New York, right? And Cabana and I just wanted to do a couple of ha-ha spots, and Mama Luke was having none of this. Yeah, he was just like, no, I don't want any part of this. And I was like, that's fine. You don't have to take part in this nonsense. Let us idiots be idiots, right? And I wanted to do a whole spot where I'm selling for Milano's Invisible Dog and things of that nature. And you could just see Mama Luke in the corner stewing like this is what I'm teaming with.
So is that where his mindset? Because when you were saying the mindset differed and where he wasn't necessarily liking the direction of wrestling, my head was like, that's kind of strange because I was thinking of the more athletic style, and I was like, well, he's such an athlete that didn't really click. But you're saying it's kind of more of stuff like that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're 100%. Yeah. And he's from the school of Malenko, and he's ready to, that bell rings, knuckle up, let's go.
Yeah, he
And
wants to go.
yeah, he wants to go, and I kind of wanted to put a little sugar on that. Let's go. When it was time to go, yes, absolutely. Let's rock and roll. But getting there, it's okay to stop and chuckle just a little bit, especially like I said, I'm working an Italian supermodel from Japan who has an
Yeah,
invisible dog in Colt Cabana. Like,
there's a time for that.
yeah, I don't think they're too interested in seeing our hammerlock reversals right off the bat. Let's.
You guys worked with some really interesting teams. I know you guys worked with like the Ring Crew Express, but one team
Yes.
that, and I believe they're the ones you lost the titles to, is the not New Generation. Why am I saying New Generation Next?
Gen Next, yeah.
And talk about a great couple of talent. Could you just,
Yeah.
especially like Roderick Strong, Jack Evans, Austin Aries, those guys. I think it was Aries and Strong you guys lost the titles to, right? Is that?
Yes. Well, here's your headline for one of your YouTube clips. Roderick Strong and I had the greatest match that never happened.
Okay, I'm definitely putting that. That's going to
be. Yeah. So I'd known Roddy. I mean, Roddy's another one of those guys that, I first met Roddy in 01, 02. Florida, Georgia Indies, right? I mean, that's just he was kind of, one of the top guys in Florida. I was all over Georgia. I was all over Florida. It was inevitable that we ran into each other, and we got along really, really well. I mean, to this day, I still talk to Roddy pretty regularly. I just love him to death. But one night it was the first time we were ever doing a singles, and we were excited about it. Just because we had done a couple tags, but like we really wanted to go. We were ready to go. And we put together this epic match that was way too much for whatever show we were on. And right before the show starts, the promoter comes to the back and goes, "Hey, the ring's broken. So we're gonna start with a reverse battle royal, and anybody that wants to take part in it can. While we're doing that, we're gonna try to get this ring fixed." And I'm just like,
wait, that logic is really interesting to me.
Just the phrase, we're going to start with a reverse battle royal. Like,
that's a reason to pause right there.
Yes. So, long story short, they never get the ring fixed. So they just kind of cancel the show. But like, Roddy and I had this match that we had put together that was just, I mean, buddy, we were ready to make the highlight reels. And, it's still floating out in the universe somewhere. As it's the greatest match that never happened. But like I said, so I'd known Roddy for years up to that point, and Roddy also was really tight with Jimmy, and so like all those FIP loops, Jimmy and I always stayed at Roderick's house.
All right.
So like, Roddy's one of those more than just a road friend, right? Like he's a guy that I talk to pretty regularly, almost every day about whatever.
And then chops.
So if you go back and watch that match, because a lot of that match, we originally, and I don't even know if this has been told, originally we were supposed to wrestle Jay Briscoe and Samoa Joe at Final Battle 05 and drop the titles to them.
Interesting.
But I think something to do with Jay's TNA contract prevented that. It was either Jay or Joe's or a combination. I don't remember I don't remember why, but I know there was a giant pivot uh where it went from Jay and Joe to Roddy and Austin. Uh but the day of that show, uh there was a lot of stuff that we kind of just put together the end of the match, and then everything else we were just like, let's feel it, right? Because again, I'm working with this chemistry with Mama Luke where I don't know what we've got. I know there's something there. I know we've got this weird dynamic, but I haven't put in my brain how to harness it to make it work for the story of the match. So if you go back and watch this match, there's about 842 chops thrown at me. Roddy just doesn't stop to the point where, I mean, I'm blistered really, 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 really bad.
I'm guessing that you're glad you didn't do the face chop with Roddy.
Yes, no, that would not be. That's never. No, no, thank you. No, that would have broken my nose. But I mean, it's to the point where like a couple days later, I go to my tanning bed, and the girl behind the desk who I'd gotten to know over time, but she didn't know what I did, right? And so I'm explaining to her like, "Hey, is there anything I can do about my chest? It's kind of beat up." And this poor girl, just because, sometimes I forget not everybody lives in a pro wrestling bubble.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, what do you mean it's beat up? And I was like, well, do you mind if I show you? And she's like, sure. So I lift up my shirt and she's like, what in the name of God do you do? Like, and I'm like, oh,
that's a fair
God.
question.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Like, that's not something you spring on a person. I'm sorry. Let
me explain, please.
Yes, let me explain all these weird bruised handprints and like, okay. No, I'm not a weird sex slave.
Do you ever think though that if you explained it, sometimes I think they might think you're even more crazy? Like,
oh yes,
maybe the sex slave story would have been better.
Yes, no, I'm 100%. I'm pretty sure there's been times the words have come out of my mouth and just like, oh, this poor soul, he's an idiot.
I let this guy chop me for 70 times in front of 1,000 people.
Yes, no, right. Roddy put his hand through my chest and into my spine more times than I care to count. But yeah, if you go back and watch it, I mean, it's chop, 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 chop. I mean, I eat all sorts of chops to the point where Aries comes in, and Aries has got good chops too. And Aries gives me one, and he's just like, I don't even know why I'm doing it at this point. There's
Hey, at least he had that mind for it, though.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I mean, I stopped breathing about 4 chops ago. So
were you disappointed though at dropping the titles, or was it something that you're like, okay, this isn't working, or
yeah. No, I mean,
or both?
Yes, to both. Yeah, this thing is like I knew this. I knew it wasn't where I wanted it to be. But at the same time, I mean, I was Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champion. Like that's a crazy thing to say, right? Especially in that era, like this 05 era where
look who's there.
I mean, I was a champion in Ring of Honor at the same time as Bryan Danielson.
That's nuts.
Like that's a real sentence. Like what? And also you could send that to AEW and give them a friendly reminder.
Yeah.
I was a champion of Ring of Honor. I would be happy to participate in your Ring of Honor shows.
Hey, you know what? Lady Frost, we talked to her, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
And, now she's in Ring of Honor. So, and of course, I'm going to take, my small channel, I'm going to take full credit for that. It has nothing to do with her incredible talent.
You should know. No, this was 100% all your work, and we're thankful for it. She's awesome. No, she's one of those. She's one of those girls that was, she stopped in NWA for a little bit before her TNA run, and she's one of those girls that I clicked with almost instantly. She her sense of humor is awesome. She's very, very dry sense of humor, but can pop me to no end. I really like Lady Frost. But yeah, like to circle back, I was a champion in Ring of Honor at the same time as Daniel Bryan. Like that's crazy. So yeah, I mean, I was definitely not like on cloud 9 to lose the titles, but like look at the run that Roddy and Austin had. Gabe
Yeah.
clearly made the right call.
What were your experiences like with Austin Aries? Because he's another guy who, again, lightning rod for controversy. A lot of
Yeah, and
people, but he was so good.
it's stupid good. And the thing is, like, how do I put this? Austin knew Austin was good, right?
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, but I always got along with him. Like, I never had, like, I've heard others have issues with Austin. I never, I can't think of one time I had a crossword with him. Even, I mean, through all the Ring of Honor stuff, all the FIP stuff, when I was with him at TNA through his whole world title run. And then even recently when he showed up at NWA, like I walked in and there was a couple people that were kind of like, I don't know. And I walked in and it was, big hug and hey man, good to see you. And we had a great conversation about, just catching up on life and everything. And just like I think the world of Austin. And I mean, and his talent speaks for itself. You can't end up all the places that he's ended up with all the pushes he's ended up and not be good.
Yeah.
Like that's like that'd be foolish to second guess Austin Aries' talent.
Mhm.
I always, like I said, I always got along with Austin. I always looked forward to working with him. Some people kind of found it to be a chore or a task, but he challenged me to be better, and I was always thankful for that.
Was he, when you're putting matches together, is that kind of where it could be a little more challenging? And for you, you see that as a positive. Maybe other people don't, but is that like some people are probably more mellow and easygoing? Is he the kind of guy who will challenge ideas, or is he the kind of guy who will take over and try to direct everything?
Yeah, well, he definitely knew where he wanted his stuff to be, right?
Mhm.
Like, but he was always open to ideas too. I know Jimmy and him bumped heads a couple times about putting matches together, because I was always Jimmy soundboard before the matches, after the matches, everything. Uh, Whether I was there or not, he would call me from the road, like especially during his stuff with Punk when he was doing his that whole feud with Punk where they were doing the dog collar match, the cage match, and all that stuff. Jimmy was calling me constantly for ideas or just the bounce thoughts he had, or let me know how it went, all that stuff. And I remember a couple times where he was working with Austin, where he was not overjoyed with what he was having to go through, and just I really think we need to go in this direction, and Austin just won't do it. Austin's fighting, to get his stuff in here, and I don't think he should. I think he should wait. Uh, but at the end of the day, and Jimmy and I had different personalities in that, where I'm definitely far more easygoing.
Mhm.
I try to make the working situation for everybody be the lightest it can be. You know, I don't put everything into one single match because I know there's going to be more. So, let's make the best of any situation we can. But, some nights it isn't, it's not going to go the way you want it to go. So you kind of just got to be able to take that step back and go, okay, this is how I saw things. It's clearly not going to go in that manner. That's cool. Give it to the universe. Where Jimmy was not that. Jimmy wanted what Jimmy wanted, and Austin was a lot like that too. Where there was a lot of times Austin wanted what Austin wanted, and he was going to fight to get it. I definitely, and then maybe that's one of the reasons I never got that contract is that I don't I don't see the necessity in constantly fighting to get stuff in for one match,
Yeah.
right? Like I definitely think just I mean perfect example when we were down this weekend in Mexico. Uh Terry wanted to be a heel. Terry was just like, I think I'm going to be a heel down here. And so I asked Jack, I go, hey man, are you a babyface or a heel? And he goes, I'm usually a babyface. And he goes, well, what do you need to be? And I go, I can be whatever this match needs.
And that's a
Right?
super
Like,
valuable role, though. Like you
yeah,
need.
yeah, yeah. No, that's the thing is, yeah, I'll listen. I'll listen to what the people tell me I am. Right? Like I can get my stuff. I can piece my stuff in anywhere and make it work. Like that's the beauty of being crazy, is that people can love or hate a crazy person. It's all perspective.
Nikki Cross can do the same thing, where she can be either a psycho hero or a
Yes,
psycho villain,
yes,
just depending on the
yes.
spot.
No, and it's a beautiful place to be because I can be plugged in with anybody at any time, and it works.
No, makes sense.
That might sound braggadocious, but I have enough. I have enough faith in my ability that there is not a single person on this planet you can't put me in the ring with, and I can't make it work. I know myself enough to know I'll make it work.
So with the
What
carry thing, though, you end up just going with the flow. Is that what you were getting
Yeah,
at?
yeah, 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 yeah. It's if you're dead set on making something happen in this match because you've got to make it happen, let's do it, man. Let's make it work.
You strike me as the kind of guy who, and I talked to Tim Storm about this too, and it's
Tim's the
something.
best.
Oh, he said the same thing about you. He talked about that. He was hoping you guys were going to team up at one point. He said there was a shirt and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah.
Super cool. But we were talking about the art of what if, which is something Bruce Pritchard talks a lot about, where
Yes.
he learned it from Pat Patterson, where he used to always say if he didn't like an idea, he'd be like, that sucks. It's horrible. And then Pat Patterson was like, well, that's how you're going to get people defensive. You're going to get heat
Yes.
for it. You're going to put people on edge. If you say, instead of saying that sucks, if you say, what
What
if?
if? Yes.
Is that kind of your style too, where you.
Yes. I never try to shut an idea down, right? Because like at the end of the day, pro wrestling is not, it's not just my artwork. It's the person I'm in the ring with
It's
too. It's
collaboration.
our art, it's our artwork, right? It's so like uh I'm a big believer that like you can't go to Picasso and tell him, oh, you're painting that wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, he's painting it the way Picasso paints his pictures, right? So, like, I'm not going to tell somebody their idea is not good and I'm not doing it. But I definitely, if there's something I don't like, I try to at least have a counter before I shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that, but what if we do it here? Or what if we do it this way? Or what if, whatever. It's very situational. But I'm very, especially in my older age, I'm very much, I want to make every match an experience, not just for me and not just for the crowd, but I want the person I'm working with to go, man, that's how it's supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it's supposed to be, right? Like, I'm real big on giving the crowd something that they're glad they spent their money on, but at the same time, being able to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's the magic. How can we accomplish all of this? Where the crowd gets their money's worth. I'm not going to say that they're happy because, depending on the situation, they're supposed to leave mad.
Yeah.
But how can the crowd get their money worth and the person I'm in the ring with feel like, man, I'm glad I got to do this. I want to do this again, and I can physically do this again tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
And then there's the wrinkle of making the promoter happy or the booker happy as well.
Yeah. I mean that part I guess is a part.
Who cares about that?
whatever.
Let's just hope Billy Corgan doesn't hear that.
Yeah, no. Well, no. So one of my favorite lines, and Xavier Woods has told me he's used it before too, but he stole it straight from me, so that's why he told me. Is I used to use it with Barons a lot, and for the first time I did it with Corgan at the last set of TVs. Where it was my match with Gags right before we went out for the match, because we were like match 23 of 28, right? It was just one of these marathon tapings where we got to get X amount of hours of content in. So I mean, that poor crowd at that point had already seen 20 plus matches, right? And so, but the crowd was completely dead. And like the two matches before us just wasn't connecting. Mm-hmm. So Billy came out of the production and he goes, Sal, I am begging you. I don't care what you have to do. Please wake this crowd up. Please make them react to what you're doing. And I look over at Gags and I go, hey buddy, sunset flip, pull my pants down. And you can see Billy's eyes get a little wide. I'm like, I'm just playing. We're not going that far unless we have to. And then I walk away. So we go do our match, right? And halfway during the match, I look up and Billy's out by the hard cam. And I'm like, oh no, like no pressure. There's the boss in the crowd during my match. So like it felt good, right? Like I really enjoyed the match, blah, 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 blah. I get to the back and the first person I see is Billy. And he was like, there you go, boys. That's what I want to see. That was good stuff. And before I didn't shake his hand. I didn't do anything. I go, I know. I was out there, and I kept walking. And I used to do that to Barons all the time. Where I get to the bag, and he's like, "Oh, that was a great job, son." I know. I was out there. And Woods has told me once he knew he was safe in WWE the first time he did a house show match, and I think it was with Curtis Axel, and he goes to the back, and Malenko's the agent. And Malenko goes, hey, man, that was really good out there. And Woods goes, I know, I was out there. And he walks away. And I was like, my son, you've learned the ways.
That's was there any part of you that when you saw Corgan out there, you're like, we should do a sunset flip spot just to see how
no. Well, so it's funny because I noticed them when we were on the floor. We were doing a little spot on the floor, and I was like, man, if we do a sunset flip off the apron onto the floor, like there's nobody on hard cam side, so I could at least tease it just to scare them. But I was like, that's too much work. We'll save that. But the thought entered my mind ever so briefly. Thank God I'm not a telepath, because if I could telepathically send messages during matches, there'd be all sorts of things that shouldn't happen that happen. So
just knowing you how I do, I just had a feeling that was going through your brain.
Oh, 100%. Just to pop myself. Yes. Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? Like I'm a big believer in I will do stuff in matches all the time just to pop me. If it pops somebody else, awesome. Come along to the ride. You're more than welcome. But at the end of the, I can't tell you the last time I went to the top rope and didn't, give a Macho Man finger wag. And it's only because Macho Man's awesome. It's not like there's no deep meaning behind it or like, nope, it's just because I like Randy Savage. So here we go.
With Xavier Woods, how did your relationship begin? Was this because he was a Georgia, Atlanta guy?
Yeah. So I didn't teach him how to flat back. He had already done some training. This is actually a great story. He had already had a couple matches before I had met him. Mm-hmm. And the first time I meet him, a couple of the guys had already told me, like, oh, there's this kid in South Carolina. I think you'd really like him. Okay. And so it just so happens that he's coming in. We're booked on a show together, and we're 1 and 2 in a battle royal. And he had never worked there. I'd been there a million times before. So I go and find him. I was like, hey, here's the deal. Like, they know me. There's nothing I can do that's going to make them go, oh, that's new from Sal. Like they kind of know who I am by now. They've never seen you before. So this first couple minutes is going to be, we're just going to shine you up. What do you do? He goes, oh, well, I kind of do a boxing gimmick. It's like,
Was he doing Consequences Creed then?
no, this is pre-Consequences
Okay.
Creed. Well, so he was Austin Creed, right?
Okay,
that's all I knew. He was Austin Creed. But I was like, so what do you do? And he goes, oh, I just kind of do a boxing gimmick. And I was like, that kind of sound in my brain. I'm like, that's lame. But I'm like, whatever, man, do whatever you want to do, you know? So he's telling me, oh, I do these jabs and I'll do a spin and a punch. I'm like, okay, cool. So keep in mind, in Ring of Honor with Mama Luke, I came to the ring to the Rocky theme. My name is Salvatore Rinauro. I'm as Italian as it gets. Right? Like I know a thing or two about Rocky. So I come out and I'm the heel, right? And I'm getting my heel heat or whatever. And then the lights go out and Living in America hits. And out comes the living, breathing iteration of Apollo Creed. And I'm yelling in the ring, why didn't you tell me you were Apollo Creed? Whoa, what is happening right now?
That would have been a way better description than.
Yeah, like you do a boxing gimmick. No, I'm shoot about to fight Apollo Creed. And none of this charisma that he has was shown in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, I'm literally standing in the ring with the guy that I watched Ivan Drago kill. And I'm like, what's happening right now? And so we get to the back and I'm like, hey, man, we need to work on your presentation of selling yourself because you're way cooler than just a boxing gimmick.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah. And so, but then our friendship just grew from there, you know. But like when he became Consequences Creed, have I not told you this story?
No.
Okay, so we're backstage in the locker room, and I've known Woodsy at this point for I don't know, probably about a year now. I mean, I've known him long enough, you know. We were pretty tight at this point. And so it's Woods, it's the artist now known as Judas in NWA, and myself. Bill Behrens comes walking by. I go, hey, Bill, what's the deal? What's the deal with this kid here? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, look at him. He's got a great smile. He's got a great look. He's got charisma for days. When are you going to get him a TNA deal? And he goes, well, actually, I might need to talk to him about teaming with Ronnie, R-Truth, at the pay-per-view because they can't. Who was the football player? It wasn't
Pac-Man Jones.
It was Pac-Man. Okay, yeah. Because Pac-Man can't bump, so they need somebody. And I was like, oh, wow. He goes, yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm thinking about suggesting Austin. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I go, oh, okay. What about big man here? Look at him. He's 7 foot tall. He's scary as crap. What's the deal? Why doesn't he have a job? And he goes, well, actually, I'm working on a pitch where he's going to come in. He's going to come up from under the ring and attack Abyss. And he's going to be with James Mitchell, and he's going to go into a huge feud with Abyss on TNA. So now I'm feeling good, right? I got Austin a job. I got Judas a job.
Single-handedly.
So I'm like, hey, yeah. So I'm like, hey, Bill, what about me? And he goes, I don't think they're looking for Italians. And he walks off.
Oh,
if that's not my career in a nutshell, I don't know what is.
You made 2 people, and
Yep. Here you go, boys. Here's go be stars. I'll be at home watching.
So I'm guessing early on you could tell that he once you saw him come out, you're like, okay, he's got something. Did you expect him to get to the point he has today? Because what a star!
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say to the levels he is, just because I don't think he saw. I mean, like I definitely saw him making money in pro wrestling. The kid
Yeah.
was money from Jump Street. Uh, but I mean, just everything especially once I got to know him, like he's just one of the most driven guys I've ever met in my life. Where no is an obstacle, it's not a finality.
Mhm.
Uh, even because like even when TNA came to an end, and I saw it firsthand with Jimmy Rave, where when TNA came to an end, that crushed his soul.
Yeah.
Like that hurt him deep. When TNA came to an end for Austin, he said, "Okay, on to bigger and better."
Wow.
And it just, I mean, if it hurt him, it hurt him for a half a second,
Yeah.
and then he went on to the next one. And I mean, to this day, I mean, I love that guy to death. And I was the last, I was at whatever the SmackDown in Tampa was, where John Cena came back the
Oh, the
last
last
time.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was an extra there, and I sent them a message the day before, like, "Hey, please be at TV," because like the SmackDown prior to that, he wasn't at TV, and I'm like, "Bro, I came all the way to SmackDown. You can't even come give me a hug. Like this is nonsensical. I'm never getting booked again because of this." Uh, so I shoot him a text. I'm like, "Please be at TV tomorrow," and he goes, "I'm definitely there. Why?" And I was like, "Because I'm there." And he was like, "Oh my god," and like it's still weird to me, like when I walk backstage to a WWE show, the number of faces that recognize me, uh, and pull me aside, and if I've told you this story, please stop me. But we did an extra spot recently, and a couple of my young boys, no, I don't say young boys, but a couple of the younger guys I help with
Mhm.
were booked too, and we're standing in line for our physicals. And as we're standing in line, it just happens to be like in between the entrance and the locker room. So a lot of the crew is walking by. And it was the same thing, the crew would walk by, "Hey guys, hey guys, hey guys, Sal. Hey guys, hey guys, hey guys, Sal." And you could see, that part in episode 7 of Star Wars where Rey's talking to Han and she's like, "Are the stories true?" And he goes, "Yes, all of them." That's essentially what happened to the young guys, where they're like, "Oh my god, all of Sal's crazy stories about all these guys that know him, they're true. He really does know these people." But like at this last episode, at the last SmackDown, I did, Woods, make sure he goes, "Where are you set up?" I go, "I'm in the extra locker room." He goes, "No, you're not. You're with me." And like, just, he made sure he goes out of his way to make sure like I'm more than taken care of. And, it just, make sure like, even if there's guys that I haven't met, he goes out of their way. It's not just like, "Hey, this is my buddy Sal." Like, he'll be like, "Oh, this is Sal. Like, he helped get me here. Like, he taught me a bunch of things I know about the business. Like, he's really good." Like, like he'll pull the agents aside and like, "Hey, don't forget, if there's a spot, give it to Sal." And like all the agents know me anyway. So like he doesn't have to do that, but
Yeah.
it's just like he does it anyways. Right? I mean, he's just, like my kids call him Uncle Austin. Like he's family. He's family.
And he's a guy who he's busier than a lot of the workers there because he's also doing up, up, down, down stuff at a lot of the
He's
tapings,
doing
right? So,
stuff constantly. Yes. Yeah. I think he told me, because I went by to see him last month. I mean, it is crazy because he lives less than an hour from me, and we see each other more often at TV than we do just, at each other's houses.
yeah.
Just because of schedules. But I think he told me I went to see him in February, and he was like, "Yeah, this is my first day off from anything in about 6 weeks, and I think I'll have my next day off the Wednesday after WrestleMania." I'm just like, God. You need a hug or an energy drink or like what? Like, let me get you something.
It's
I
crazy
mean,
'cause
but
he was just on NXT and SmackDown at the same
yep,
time. He
yep,
was
yep,
doing G4 last year. Like I
yep.
said, up, down, up. He found a way. He brought GM mode back, and now he's him and Tyler Breeze are like GMs in a WWE game.
Yeah, it's
It's
wild.
nuts.
Well, and it's the thing, like the story they told about him being King of the Ring,
Mm.
where like that was his thing. That's the truth. They didn't write that story. That is as legitimate. And I mean, I remember vividly the two things he wanted, when he was breaking in was to wrestle Crash Holly for the hardcore title and to be King of the Ring. Right? Like, uh so like I recently just got, and I think it's somewhere around here, I just got the King Woods action figure.
Mm.
And I texted it to him and I was like, dude, I've legitimately got over 1,000 action figures. This means more to me than 98% of them.
That's super cool.
And he was, yeah, and he sent me back like crying emojis. He was like, "You'll never know, what that means." And I was like, no, I won't, because I'll never be King of the Ring. But it's, I'm super happy for you. I love you, buddy.
Hey, there's always this year. It's back now.
Yeah, right,
Never
right.
say never. I mean, you still got a pin Rey Mysterio, so maybe somehow those
Yeah,
can come
no,
together.
I still got a WCW Cruiserweight run waiting to happen. So,
You've been great with your time. We've already been going a while. Guess what? We just got to the end of your tag team title run.
yeah, yeah. We
But
haven't even touched on the embassy. We
yeah,
haven't even
that's.
touched on, yeah.
But I do want to ask about another because I wrote this down just so I wouldn't forget while we were chatting. A guy who
Yes.
has a reputation similar to Austin Aries, but I'm not sure how much you really interacted with him. Low key, because he's a guy who talk about. We talked about Amazing Red last time in the SAT and how influential they were and how incredible they are. And I'd love to talk to them sometime in the future too, because I feel like they don't talk about their stories really. And they're
Yeah,
two.
which is,
Oh, I'd love to talk to them. There's a bunch of guys I hope I get to, but Loki, he has quite the reputation. But man, what a
yes.
wrestler!
And the thing is, the reputation precedes him. Uh, so he's got an intimidation factor about him before you ever meet him. Especially in that era too. Like Loki and Joe were the two guys that like you just don't ever cross them. They will shoot murder you and not think twice about it. Loki was always super cool to me. Like I just this like, and I think it's because he knew like, hey, I'm not like I was never a threat to Loki, right? Like I was never gonna do what Loki could do because nobody could be Loki.
Yeah,
I mean, he just
you're not
talk
wrong.
about just a phenomenal performer. Like I was, I'm such a fan of the stuff that he did. And
No one, even today, nobody's really been able to.
no, I wish he was able to have the platform to be the low key of 0203 that would be afforded to him today.
Oh, it'd be.
Right? I just think, I mean, like, because for all the greatness that was the SATs and Red, which we discussed, they were awesome. They were groundbreaking performers that, like, every time they would just can't miss TV. Low key was the other side of that, right? So like Loki was the perfect dance partner for those guys
Mm.
because they could do all this stuff, and then Loki would throw this kick that you would think for sure would murder a man.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember it was during the tag title run with Mamaluke, and I know I told the story on here where I did the 180 springboard.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a Rana. It ended up being a kick. So I started using that regularly as a finish. Well, we were in the ring before a show. I want to say it was in Buffalo, and Key was in the ring, and he was doing a kick similar to it. He wasn't doing the 180 springboard, but he was doing it like almost like the Mark Miro salt,
All right.
where he would hop up and then do the kick. And I saw it, and I was like, do I tell Low-Key not to do this kick because it's similar to mine? And so I'm having this internal debate because, like, man, he's going to for shoot murder me. And then I'm never going to kick anybody again. And that's just how it's going to be. But the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, man, I don't really have much. I kind of need to protect my stuff, especially since I do it as a finish. So I pulled him aside and I was like, hey, man, I don't know how to say this, but my finish is a very similar kick to the one you were just doing. And, you know, if you don't mind, like, I'd kind of like to protect it. And like, there was a silence where I thought for sure, oh, he's contemplating how he's going to kill me,
Yeah.
not whether or not it's going to happen. That's a foregone conclusion. What body part is he going to rip off first? And then he goes, thank you for telling me that. Like, I don't want to be the one taking other people's stuff. And I was
Wow.
like, oh, I can breathe.
Of course, the voice was a lot deeper.
Oh yeah, no, I couldn't do a good Low-Key voice if I had a Darth Vader mask on. I mean, but yeah, I mean, and then like after that, he was always super cool to me, and I think there were so many people that were just so intimidated by him because of what he presented himself as that they were afraid to talk to him. So when you come to him and just speak to him like a human being, he was very receptive to it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I mean, what would he need a springboard kick for? That dude was awesome.
Could do anything.
Yeah. So one of my all-time favorite Ring of Honor moments is from that final battle where we lost the tag titles. The main event was Kenta versus Low-Key for the Noah Junior title, right?
Oh, yep.
So I think I said before, one of the reasons I got over with Gabe is because he could always find me. I'm the guy at the curtain watching the show.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting paid to watch these shows. Like, I beat the system. I've cracked the code. So the main event is Kenta versus Low-Key. And I'm sitting there, and Gabe comes by and he sits next to me. And he's super stoked, right? Like, he's into the match, and he goes, hey, you want to know a secret? I go, yeah, what's up? He goes, I don't know who's going over.
Huh.
I go, what do you mean? He goes, this was Noah's call. He goes, I don't know if I'm getting a world junior titles change on my show or not. I'm just like everybody else.
That's wild.
And I was like, what? Like, is this real? He goes, yeah, no clue. He goes, Noah called the finish and I didn't want to know.
Wow.
So like I'm legitimately watching the main event of Final Battle. It's a Noah Junior title match. It's Kenta and freaking Low-Key, and they're burning the place down. Like it's an ice hockey rink, and they're melting the floor beneath us. And Gabe is popping harder than everybody in the building because he doesn't know if he's getting a Noah Junior title change on his show or not.
So he's biting for everything.
Yes. So it's 1, 2. Oh, Sal. Oh, I thought I had it that time. And that's one of my all-time favorite wrestling moments. Just because it was so unreal. Like, it was just super cool. Yeah, but I know none of that's possible without the believability and just the awesomeness that is Low-Key.
It's wild because you wouldn't expect a guy of his size to have the aura that he did until you saw him. If you just heard about it, you would be like, really? And then as soon as you see him the first time, it makes sense.
All the sense of the world. Yeah.
Did you ever work with him at all, like one-on-one or in a tag or multi-man or anything like that at all?
No, I never got to mix it up with the stars never aligned. There was a couple times where we were supposed to do stuff and it got canceled and got changed. We were supposed to do a singles match. There was some tournament in Georgia and I wasn't interested in doing it. And the promoter told me, well, the final two are going to be you and Low-Key. And I was like, I'm all the way in.
I'm in.
And night one of the tournament, Low-Key messed up his ankle. And so he ended up having the guy he was working with beat him because he
Oh,
knew he wasn't going to be. Yeah. And so I was just like, oh, can I get beat now? I
so
don't want
not
to do
only are
three
you in the
matches.
tournament you didn't want to do, you have to go
Yes.
all the way till
Uh,
the end.
yes. And I didn't get low key at the end. So, yeah. No, he's one of those guys that he's a bucket list guy. Yeah. Still to this day, if anybody's out there that wants to book it, please.
Also, let's get Sal in the Super 8 Cup. We need to make
Please.
that happen. Super 8
Oh
tournament.
my God. That would be so super cool. Please.
I'm making it a mission. I want to get you in there.
Sign me up. I'll sign the petition. I'll sign the petition as 18 different people. There's one thing we did. I don't think I told the story on here. I'll tell this story before we go because it's so unless did I tell you about working Koko B Ware?
No, no.
Perfect. Okay, this is a great story. And it segues into a petition story. So I worked Koko B Ware once in Tennessee, right? And this is summer of '02. And like he's like one of the first names I ever got to work with. So like I'm super excited, right? This is Koko B Ware, is the
Yeah,
Birdman.
of course.
So I get to the show and I'm hanging out, and Coco finally gets there. And so we're kind of chit chatting, about what he can do and what he can't do and what he wants to do, and all that's fine. And I go, hey, where's Frankie, the bird?
Mhm.
And he goes, well, man, I don't know how to say this, but a couple weeks ago, me and my family were at church, and Frankie was part of the family. Vince bought me that bird, but he was a part of the family. He was with me forever. And
Do you know
one
roughly
day,
what year this was?
'02.
Oh, two. Okay. So, yeah. So at that point, he had,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he had him, 10 plus years.
yeah.
Uh, and he goes, yeah. So me and the family are at church, and I get home, and there was a house fire, and Frankie didn't get out. I'm just like, oh man, I'm a real jerk for asking.
Oof.
I'm sorry. And he's like, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of out of our hands. He was a great bird, and I love him to death. Like, okay. So fast forward to the match, right? Where I'm out first, and I'm the heel, and I'm getting my heat. Koko B Ware sucks. Old people suck. And Tennessee sucks. And then Birdman music hits, and out comes Coco, and he's doing the bird. I'm like, this is super cool. And he gets the mic, and he goes, I know what everybody's wondering. Where's Frankie? And he
Oh, no.
tells the whole story. You know, Me and family were at church, and there was a house fire, and I lost my bird. And then he points to me and goes, and he set the fire.
Oh, my God.
And I'm in the ring, and I'm like, why would I do that? I'm a monster.
Oh, my God. That's,
Oh no. Right? Then I kind of like snap out of it. Like, what? Why would I burn this man's house down? So, I tell this story to everybody I know, like, hey, I guess I killed Frankie. Like I'm an arson. I heard I had a spot show with Koko B Ware, so I burnt his house down. Like any good heel would do.
what a worker to use that in the promo.
Yes, no, it's pro wrestling as its finest, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward to that summer, I was doing an angle at Wildside where they had banned my finishing move. Uh, and so we shot some vignettes where I was shoot out in the streets trying to get people to sign this petition to bring my finishing move back. Nobody knows what I'm talking about,
Just
right? It's
random
just a crazy.
strangers.
Yes, it's a crazy man in spandex in downtown Cornelia, Georgia, trying to get people to sign a petition, right? Then nobody's biting, but that's the whole gag.
Billy on the street like 15 years early.
100%. So finally, fast forward to an in-ring segment, right? So we do one vignette in the back where I'm like, oh my God, I've got it. And that's the outshot, right? So fast forward to an in-ring, and this is where it gets good because it's me and Barons. And Barons tells me essentially, he goes, we'll do a little talking and I'll shut it down. I'm like, okay, that's fine. What Barons didn't tell me is that he had, in fact, compiled a list of signatures that I did get, but they're all absurd signatures, right? And so, like, And I don't know if he did it to test me or just because he thought it was hilarious, but like he's throwing names at me and I'm just playing off it. But it's all names to pop me. He's like, Sal, I'm looking at this list here and you got He-Man to sign? I'm like, yeah, he's got the power. And he goes, but 2 lines later, you got Skeletor. And I'm like, Bill, that's how important it is that I get this move back. I can bring both sides of the world together. Like I can bring Eternia back to peace with with me getting my move back. Like, are you willing to risk that? You know, and he's just like, and I see Akeem the African Dream on here. And it's like, of course you see it. Like, I love Akeem the African Dream. And it's all sorts of names like that, just stuff to pop me. And he goes, wait a minute. Nope. Now I can tell it's a sham. And I go, why is that? Hey, keep in mind, this is all improv. I don't know what's coming at me. And he goes, you know what, Sal? I almost believed you. I mean, Randy Mulkey, Bill Mulkey, that sounds like something that you could have made happen. But you've got Frankie the Bird on this list. And I know Frankie the Bird didn't sign this because you killed him in a house fire.
Oh, my Lord. That's incredible.
Damn it, you got me. You got me, Bill.
Did you break? Because I feel like that would have.
Yes. No. There's a genuine gigantic smile that comes across my face. Well, what am I to do? Like, it was total left field. Did not see it coming.
That's an incredible story. And now we know to blame you for killing Frankie.
Oh, yes.
So
yeah. I'm pretty sure I hurt Matilda in some way. Just any pro wrestling animal, I'm pretty sure, outside of Damien, because we all saw Earthquake splash hit.
Yeah, of course.
All other pro wrestling animal deaths, I'm pretty sure can get pinned on me somehow.
Didn't Jake, when he went Christian, didn't he change the name from Damien to something?
Revelations.
So maybe you killed Revelations.
I killed Revelations. That's yep.
That opens up a whole bag of worms, but
yeah, it was a sacrifice for Father Mitchell. It's a thing I do. Don't worry about it, guys.
It makes sense now.
Yes, storytelling.
Sal, you were phenomenal as usual. I have great news. We ended the last episode at about the fall of 2005. Today we got to the winter of 2005. So
all right, we did it. We covered a whole half year.
But no, it was great. I really appreciate you offering your time. Please tell people where they can find you and to check out the NWA.
Yes, again, you can find me on Twitter at Sal Rinauro, Rinauro. I am Pat Sajak's favorite pro wrestler. You can find me on Instagram, Sal_Rinauro. Same spelling, just throw an underscore in there because I'm foolish when it comes to electronics. You can find me at prowrestlingtees.com/Sal Rinauro. You can find me almost weekly, fortunately, on NWA Power and NWA USA. New episodes drop every Tuesday at 6:05 Eastern and Saturday at 12:05 Eastern. And then just follow my socials. Lord knows I'm a traveling man. I have the ability to travel and will do so. Any promoters that want to bring me in, tell them to hit me up too. I'm not afraid to go pro wrestle. I'm not afraid to do it.
Buy a t-shirt, guys. The links will be in the description. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel at Armbars and Sidebars on YouTube. Be sure to leave a comment. Talk about how much you enjoy Sal. I know I love to read it. I'll always comment back as long as I have time. Follow us on Twitter at Armbars Sidebar, on Instagram at Armbars and Sidebars. Sal, again, you were phenomenal. You're a great storyteller. I really appreciate your time.
No, thank you. I'm glad to do it.
Thank you so much. And guys, until next time, later.